I have new plants to share with you. I'm going to start off with the smallest one and work my way up. So first off we have the Fusbise Ruby, and this is a rubber tree, just a small one, and this one actually has the red tinge to the leaves. You can probably see it doesn't have that many leaves yet, but you can see it's got that ruby red tinge to it. And this one was actually on my wish list. You may have watched that video, and yeah, I couldn't believe it when I saw it. I thought, wow, I wasn't expecting to get a wish list plant quite so soon, but I really love this one. And he's got a little bit of growing to do until he catches up with my other rubber plants. And of course this one's still in quarantine from my other plants at the moment, but I did give it a good clean as well when I got it home. Whenever I get a new plant, the first thing I do is I leave it for a little while, for about 12 hours, and then I will give it a good clean, and then I'll put it into quarantine away from my other plants for about a week or two, just to make sure there aren't any problems that I missed when I examined it at the garden centre. And next up I have actually another one of my wish list plants, and this is the Philodendron Prince of Orange. And I've wanted one of these for quite some time now, and I can say it's even more beautiful in real life. I'd only ever seen pictures up until now. See how that new leaf is coming in and that lovely orange colour. It's so nice. And you can see on the backs of the leaves as well, they've got that orange tinge. I just love that combination of the orange and the green. It's so beautiful. So yeah, I finally got myself a Philodendron Prince of Orange, and I'm thinking I might give this one some support. It is an upright philodendron, so it probably doesn't need support, but my other large philodendron that I have is starting to get quite heavy now, and I'm assuming this one will probably grow in a similar fashion, so I may give it some support, but it's got a little way to go yet. And yeah, it's got this new leaf coming through. Whenever I get a new plant, I always give it a good clean before putting it with the rest of my plants, and even then I keep it separate from my other plants for about a week to 2 weeks, just to make sure there aren't any problems with it. And of course I also examine it at the garden centre just to check that everything's okay, and so far this one looks healthy. It's looking nice and shiny after a nice clean. And I have saved the best for last. Finally we have a Philodendron Silver Sword. And I couldn't believe it when I saw this in the garden centre. It looked even more beautiful in person, and I had to get it. And this one is just beautiful. It's on a moss pole, well, cocoa coir pole, and yeah, it's a really healthy plant. It's got that gorgeous silvery colour to the leaves, and on the top there it's got the more mature leaves, and you can sort of see the shape that they get when they get more mature. More towards the bottom they tend to be a little bit more juvenile, so they're not quite the sword shape that this plant is known for. And I actually found out after doing some more research that this plant is endangered in the wild. So that's a real shame to hear, because it's such a beautiful plant. And it didn't actually have the label of Philodendron Silver Sword, it just said Philodendron Moss Pole, but I was almost certain that it was a philodendron silver sword, so I just did some research when I got home, and I'm pretty sure it is. I'd be shocked if it wasn't, but if you don't think it is, then let me know, but I'm pretty sure it is. It looks identical to the pictures I've seen online. And this one is really attached to its pole. The aerial roots have grown into it at some points, and it does seem to have come to the top of the pole already, so I guess it might need an extension at some point. I'm not sure how that's going to work because it's kind of attached to its pole, so maybe I'll be able to add some more to the top somehow, I don't know, or I guess trim the plant and make cuttings. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but I just know that I love it. Looking forward to seeing these plants grow this year. This tiny baby, I got to admit I'm a little bit worried because I've bought small plants before and sometimes they can be a little bit fragile, but hopefully it'll be okay. Usually the rubber plant is super easy to look after, but I find that even if it's a super easy to look after plant, if it's a tiny baby, then there's more margin for things to go wrong because it's so new. But I'm going to keep my eye on it and hopefully make sure it survives. I hope it does. And of course, as with my other plants, I also gave this one a good clean as well. Clean the leaves, both the fronts and the backs, just to make sure I clean off any pests that might be there. There's no sign of pests. I do make sure to examine them before I buy them, but it's also worth just giving them a clean when you get home as well, just to make sure, and it also cleans off any dust that there might be as well. So yeah, I am so happy with my new plants, and so far they're settling in very well. I've got them all on a table separately to my other plants, and I won't put them together with my other plants until a couple of weeks, just to make sure there aren't any problems, as I said before. And as always, if you have any of these plants, do let me know if you have any care tips or any advice from your own experience. I'd love to hear from you. I think these plants are pretty easy to take care of from what I've read, so we'll see. I think actually I am starting to develop a bit of a philodendron addiction. I've got quite a few now, and for some reason it's just a genus of plant that really appeals to me. I seem to just gravitate towards philodendrons somehow. Whenever I see one, I always think, wow, I've got to have that one.